Do I still have hope to progress in Etheria restart?
That's good to know. Make sure you guys are paying attention to this.
Can you even max refresh in the first place?
I can tell you right now that is not the correct thing to do. The first thing you have to do is...
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I have one of the highest ranking RTA player from the final test here with me to discuss Etheria restart, give you guys the best tip for the global launch coming very soon. Hello Sturby, how are you doing today?
Good man, how are you?
All right, so Sturby here from the final test. If you watch the, I think, Hyper Talk, his name appeared near the end. One of the player who's going to qualify for the World Series of Etheria Restart. So he know what he's doing. He know what he's talking about, unlike me. So today, I'm going to give you guys, or we will be trying to give you guys the best tip in different area of the game so that you can start Etheria strong. If you're watching this after the global launch, I hope that all the tips we're giving today will be applicable to you guys as well. All right, Stubby. So the first category that I want to talk about is going to be a very important category for all the players out there, which is going to be the summon. And Stubby is actually a Giga Whale, I think. Can I call you that?
I think a whale would be enough. I don't think I will go so crazy in this, this summoning. Because you really don't have to be honest.
All right, but Stubby is a whale, so he's going to give you the POV of a whale, and I'll be trying to give you guys tips from like a low spender, free-to-play kind of vibe here. So for summoning, Stubby, so what is going to be your global launch plan for summoning with all these banners? Because I think we have confirmed that the first banner is going to be Freya and Messiah, and the pity is going to be 80. Right now on the screen, you will see 100, but they'll be changing that to 80 pity for all the limited banner. So what is going to be your global launch plan as a whale?
I because the game is so free, right? And dupes don't really
Wait, hold on. The game is so what?
The game is, to us, whale. It's relatively, it's comparable, and I think it's pretty free. And so because the dupes don't really work, so much, or it doesn't affect your gameplay that much, right? Because all you get is like a 5% attack increase for your HP, skill defense, and you get a bit of crit rate, a bit of crit damage, and then the last one is just a 10% extra, damage and reduction. So for me personally, my summon strategy is I'm not gonna worry about any single raid up banner, and I'm gonna go in day 0, and I'm just gonna try and summon for as many units as I can from the permanent summon. Okay, and from there, whatever I am missing, the last one that I am missing, I will go into the target banner and I'll just target that and just summon it. So ideally, in a perfect world, from the permanent summon, I summon every single SSR, and I just have that one SSR left that I miss, and hopefully it's an RGB unit, and I can come into the target summon and I can just summon it from there. So that is how I would be doing it. Definitely, not everyone's gonna have that luxury, but I thought I'd share my strategy.
Okay, so for some sort of reference, how much did you spend in the final test, and did you get everything? And did you have to use the targeted summon to get what you need? And did you get all the LDSSR?
In the beta, I spent about $1,000, but that was not just on summons. That was just just to buy the packs and to hit the threshold. Because at the start of the game, you're gonna get a shitload of summons to begin with already. So all I was missing in the beta was Ciara, Selence, Lily, and Beyonce. That's all I was missing. I could not pull Lily to save my life.
Wow,
I pulled everything from the permanent summon.
You were actually missing some RGB SSR then.
Yes, because I kept pulling. I kept pulling Hellkit. I kept pulling Lilith, and I kept pulling what's the other one called? Mia.
Ah, yes.
Yes, and I just couldn't hit a Beyonce. I couldn't hit a Ciara. I couldn't hit a Selence, and those were the 3 RGB units that were missing.
I see. So he's gonna try to get everything. That is probably gonna be the whale strategy. For me personally, my tip for summoning, whenever I go into this kind of game, I always try to look at the potential of the SR character, because I assume I'm not gonna get everything. Okay, it's gonna be whatever I get is gonna be great. So if you're going for the banner, or if you're going for the standard summon, I think the whole point for a low spender and a free-to-play player, if possible, you try to get all the SR. I think that's going to be like a rather more achievable goal is to get all the SR. And because the game is going to give you the best healer, SSR is going to be Linglo. The game's going to give you Lian, it's going to be a fire damage dealer. And you can get to pick one from the targeted banner. So whatever you're going with, let's say Tiamat or Siada or Rosa, it doesn't matter. So you will have your hands full with SSR because building one SSR is going to be very costly in terms of the Lattice for the skill up. And also, yeah, I think more or less it's just the Lattice distribution. So you're gonna be able to build like a couple SSR, but you'll be able to build like maybe 3 to 5 SR. And I think that's gonna be the hard carry for you in the early mid game. So personally, my goal is to try to get as many SR as possible. And that's what I'm gonna be playing with. And whatever ticket that I get from playing, I'll be using it for summon. But I will try, or you know what? I will not use any of my gem. Okay, you see like 1 billion gem here, but this is like a test server. I will not use my gem for summoning at all because I will need to farm a whole lot to progress in the game. And I think that's going to be so much more important for just the general player base. Do you agree?
Yes, I definitely agree. I think that farming is way more important than summoning, especially at the start when you're showered with anima prototypes. Just get the bare minimum and then roll with that, and then let's see what the next unit's coming for the next banner. Then you can decide if you want to spend your anima prototypes there or not. I think that is probably the better way to go as a light spender.
But let's say for the re-rollers out there who want the perfect start, and with your experience playing with all the Apex animus, what is your recommendation for the re-rollers out there? Because I think there's really no point in a re-roll for the normal unit because you're going to get your hands on what you want anyway with the targeted summon and with them showering you with summon at the start of the game. But for the re-rollers, which one here is going to be your pick if you have to pick one to re-roll for?
It will either be between Heinrich or Lily, and if you get both, even better. But I would prioritize Heinrich over Lily, in my opinion, because strippers in this game are very, very hard to come by, and he is one of the premium dispellers in this game. So I would definitely go with Heinrich because you're going to need him in the late game, I guarantee it.
So for those of you who never played the game before and you're watching video to get information, he called this guy a stripper. So for me, when I first played this game in like the first beta, I could not for the life of me tell you that this guy is the stripper. Because when I read the skill description, like what the fuck is the stripping part? I never really noticed that he has a unique passive that every time he attacks, he can strip. So it technically make him a full stripper. Oh, what the fuck? Every single skill can strip, which is really, really amazing. And why is everyone recommending this guy, including Sturby right here? Because when you go to the Inferno stage of all the bosses here, so this boss and Terramaton at the Inferno stage, the highest stage that you can farm gear, they will have immunity. You have to strip the immunity to either slow the boss down, put defense break on the boss to actually kill it. So Hendrik is everywhere in PvE at the end game. That's why he is being so sought after. And another bonus that I didn't really pay attention to Hendrik is that he has a unique debuff that increases crit damage taken by the boss, so you hit even harder after stripping. So he's a very amazing choice for re-rollers out there. However, what if they really like Lily? Do you still recommend Lily for the other side of the world?
I would still recommend Lily because Lily is extremely versatile, and if you get Lily, chances are in the early game of PvP you're gonna be killing it because she is that good. Because she's also one of the fastest units out there, so your gear requirement to make her go first is not very high. And she can cooldown reset, she can cooldown increase on your opponent, she can, turn meter push, she can dual attack or assist attack in this game is what it's called. She does a lot. She helps you dish out a lot of damage. So if you get Lily, you're fine. If you get Heinrich, you're also fine. But if you get both, you've won the game.
But then there's a big question. What if I push Shadow Sania? Is she worth keeping? Because everybody know re-rolling is a fucking hell. And if I happen to push Shadow Sania, can I stop? Like, is this something that, because nobody really cared too much about Dot right now, except for like the ultra endgame player who really know the potential of this character. But what if I push Shadow Sania? Do I still have hope to progress in Etheria restart.
Yes, 100%. I know for a fact that when I was first starting the game, everyone was like, if you get Shadow Sanya, you brick your account. That's it. You're done in this game. But honestly speaking, you're not done, because if you pull Shadow Sanya, then for your SR units, you just have to focus on dot units like Fangus, like Obo, and if you get them, Shadow Sanya will truly shine for you, because she detonates all the DOT. And so the reason why she is so good is because of her end game. And if you have the right units to set her up, she will help you, speed run all the content, especially Aurora.
And by the way, I love dots in this kind of turn-based game, because dot is one way for you to deal damage without actually investing in damage dealing stat, like the conventional crit rate crit damage. You can be very tanky and do very good damage at the same time. Even in PvP as well, you can kind of close the stat gap against whale out there, because you are doing damage straight to their max HP, which is incredible. And once again, if you read her skill, I also didn't know that, by the way. If you read her skill, you realize that, wait, she can inflict dot whenever she deal damage to the enemy. So her skill 1 can put dot, her skill 2 can put dot. It is actually incredible. And one extra tip for this character that I noticed from the test server is, if you equip her with the Battle Wheel set, the set that give you a chance to follow up with a skill 1, she can put even more dots. It's kind of funny whenever it happens, but it's a small chance for that to happen, 20%, but very, very cool.
Interesting. I never knew that. That's cool.
Yeah, because I saw the like, I think 30-second run from somebody, and suddenly the Shadow Sanya double hit with skill 1 and then land like a crazy amount of dots. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute, it's the Battle Wheel set. And yeah, the skill 1 follow-up with extra dot is incredible.
That's good to know. Make sure you guys are paying attention to this.
All right, so that is the summoning tip. No, after you're done summoning, now you stop playing the game. From a whale perspective, what is your best farming tip? Because if you look at the farming section of the game, right at the start, there are 4 things to farm all the time. So we have EXP, we have progress material, we have model drop, we have shell. So how do you like distribute your stamina? Because in this game, we all have limited stamina, including the whale, which is kind of a disturbing fact for the whale out there, because they can't out-whale you in terms of refreshing stamina. So even you have to think properly about how you spend your stamina. So what do you think about farming, and how do you distribute that?
So because I played the beta, and that was the very first time I played it, I thought I knew better, because I come from a turn-based game. I was like, okay, let's go straight into the modules and let's farm the modules. I can tell you right now that is not the correct thing to do. All right. The first thing you have to do is, if you were to go back, Sean, just to the front page, if you see the way they've laid it out, it starts with Grim Pursuit, then Threshold, then Investigation, then GP Outpost. What that should tell you an indicator that it is already sequenced in its level of importance. Grim Pursuit should be where you are supposed to spend majority of your stamina in first, before you even move into Threshold, because all your stats, your basic stats, comes from your shells. I learned that the hard way. So in your shells, you're going to get base HP, base attack, base defense. You're going to get that boost along with your speed. Okay? And the higher you go, your first threshold when you're playing in Grim Pursuit is literally Fabian. Once you get to Fabian, you start getting epic shells, and those epic shells start dropping you 30 speed and a lot more base stats. Then, when you have all of that, you can start, doing your thresholds a lot easier, start clearing a lot more stages, and then its multipliers will do a lot more for you. Okay? So, in my experience, when I came straight into Doki, my speed was going nowhere. All right? Because I did not have the shell to give me the speed. So my 35% speed was, just increasing a plus 20, plus 20, plus 30, which only gave me, up to like, plus 60, plus 70 speed, which is not a lot. But if you start improving your shells first, and then you couple it with your thresholds, then you're going to start seeing a lot more stats onto your units, especially when it comes to speed here, right? The other thing is, do not worry about investigation, and do not worry about GP Outposts, because I found out, and I don't know if this is going to be in the full launch, but when you're in Threshold, when you're clearing Terramaton drops you 1000 experience points for every unit. And that is already a lot because your yellow book that you use to advance your characters is 5000. So doing a 5 run on Hell will just immediately, boost your unit's level already. So investigation is not something you have to do unless you're clearing the hyperlink charter. Okay? However, I will say do your investigations during the double drop period, because the double drop is a literal double drop of everything. That includes your gold and whatever it drops, even animal prototypes, that when it drops in the investigation, that will also be double. So that's the only time I would tell you guys, hey, go into investigation now and start farming this. And you can see it's matter of importance again, right? It's telling you, all right, go do your investigations now, 24 hours. Then it tells you go into your GP outpost. Then it tells you to go into your threshold. So this is when I would say, all right, do your investigation that day. All your stamina, not your refresh stamina, obviously. I say all your stamina should just be jammed in there. All right. Same thing goes with the GP outpost, and then with your thresholds in the double drop, spend all your stamina pots. That's where you spend all your stamina pots to get all the double drop for your modules. That's how I would go about doing it. But yes, guaranteed, granted, Grim Pursuit is arguably the most important one before you go into threshold, but your balance will have to be between the two. Emphasis more on the Grim Pursuit.
Definitely. I think I agree with you right there. I think these two are like the kind of thing that you farm a little bit early game to kind of give you a quick little boost in level, in skill progression, because you definitely need that. But it's not something that you will invest a lot of EX stamina in for a long time. This is the kind of thing that you go in just enough to get you out of like the next level, the next skill upgrade. And then you get out of that. This is not something that you waste your stamina in, because as you play the game, your unit get EXP, as he mentioned. So don't max out your character EXP if you can. Leave a couple level empty, because you're going to be spending so much stamina in these things to get the perfect shell, or like just the appropriate shell, or get the right gear. And then you get EXP from playing these module as well, and these mode as well. And this event right here, which is the double reward for certain things in the game, is going to be so important. I wish they have a proper schedule for this thing in the global launch, when it's going to happen, so people can actually save up stamina properly. One thing I like to add is that I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure if they give you any mental stabilizer, it's kind of like a trap that they kind of force you or suggest that you use the mental stabilizer immediately before you touch the gem, which sounds like a free-to-play thing to do. Like, I don't want to touch my gem. I need to use my gem for summon. But the thing is, you might not want to use this at all, and you want to save it when the double drop happen, because as he mentioned, the double drop would double your gold, double your gem, double the summon that randomly drop when you play the EXP stage or the GP outpost stage. And that's going to be so valuable during these days to catch up on what you don't have enough of, like your skill up or the last couple of EXP to get to the next startup, for example. So don't spend all your time in the EXP, in the progress material. You need to start farming a bit of shell, because you're farming here not just because you need the shell. You need the training data that drop with this thing. Because when you start playing the game, you will soon realize that, holy shit, I don't have enough training data to train this shit properly. You also need the training data to reroll their passive effects. So you need a whole lot of training data. And I think you can only get this if you farm the shell dungeon, or you buy with the currency you get from the arena shop or the guild shop. So that's going to be another story. But you need to be farming the shell and the module a lot. I think for the early game or mid game, I think the distribution might have to be like 50-50, half in shell and half in module. But I think shell is something.
60-40.
Is
I think
it
60-40
for shell?
I think 60% should be on shell, 40% should be on threshold.
Damn.
Because leveling them up, starring them up takes a lot. Takes a lot out.
That is true. That is so true.
Right? And you need to level them up to get the higher threshold of your the capable base stats of that shell. So I would say maybe 60-40, and then once you get to your Nico Nanas, that's when you can start tapering it down and go into a more 50-50, and then eventually even 40-60, to be honest. Because once you get enough of the shells, you don't really need to farm them so much anymore, except if you're trying to find some very specific matrix modules for that specific shell to imprint.
I think shell is something that is not as RNG as the module, because the module come with so many substat and you gotta roll the right stat for the right character. Shell's a bit less RNG. The real RNG of the shell is only in the passive bonuses that they provide. So the moment you hit the right bonuses on your shell, then you kind of just leave it there. You probably don't have to touch it again. So I think that the module at the end game will be more important, but for the early mid game, shell might be more important for the majority of player, because there's no RNG with the basic attribute that the shell can give you. It's just straight up like raw HP, attack, defense, and speed. It's so good.
Yep, 100%. And that's why I started valuing shells a lot more, and that's what I'll be doing for the launch too.
I think another big question, but mainly for like the low spender and free to play player, I think whale will 100% full refresh. That is not even a question. That is a fact. But it's gonna be very hard to find out what is the right balance on how many refreshes on gem that you should be doing, because we're not really sure about the in-game economy, like exactly how many gem they're giving out via Ember Track, Ethernet Rally, and all that good stuff. But through your discussion in your community, what do you think is like the appropriate refresh amount? Or you don't care, if you're free to play, you should still max refresh stamina to farm to progress in the game if you can. Like, you refresh until you run out of gem.
I think your first week is you're fine to push it with your gems, because you're going to be getting a lot from the hyperlink charters, your achievements and stuff like that. Your first week, I think the best thing you want to do is you want to start getting yourself into level 35, because that's when Nightmare unlocks for you. After that, you can chill out a little bit. You're in no rush to go to hell mode in anything, okay? Because getting to hell mode is a whole different difficulty spike in itself already. So pushing yourself all the way to 40, 45, just so you can unlock hell and inferno, doesn't really do you much. But going to Nightmare does help you significantly boost your stats in terms of your modules and even your shells. So 1 week of fully refreshing, I think it's a valid argument, because you're going to be spat out with so many gems and so many summons already that you don't even need to dip into your gems to summon to begin with. And so 1 week, good. Starting from second week and onwards depends on how you feel. Honestly, it depends on how you feel. But as the game progresses as a free to play or a light spender, I think doing 2 gem refreshes, doing twice a day for a daily, it's, I think, reasonable. 160 gems, it's okay. I think you can sacrifice 1.5 summons to progress a little more in terms of improving your characters. I don't think it's too much of a harm, really.
When I talk to other free-to-play players, at the end of the final test, they were refreshing 10 times a day, non-stop. And they were still having gem left over. I'm not sure if that's going to be like the final test or closed beta feeling or honeymoon period where they shower you with gem. So maybe after 1 month, we're going to revisit this question to see if max refresh is going to be worth it, or can you even max refresh in the first place? But that is something that we can't really say at the moment. But for a game like this, from our experience in the previous game, we all know that the more you farm, the more better, the stronger you are, the better your account in the future. And the less you farm, the more you focus on summon, the more you feel like you're stuck at wherever you are. You can't really progress. Even if you have all the character in the game, you will still not really go anywhere.
Yeah, and we all have to remember that everyone has not played the game for more than 3 weeks. Like, I think that is the longest anyone has ever played the game. So we cannot comment any further than 3 weeks. But from what we can see in the first, 10 days that I play, at least for me, 1 week of max refreshing gets you to, all the necessary thresholds a light spender should be at. And then you can just slowly take your time and progress, because you're not rushing for anything really. So I think it's okay to do a 1 week full refresh, in my honest opinion.
Because I think in the first week, they will give you like coupon codes. You're going to have so many events and beginner mission and all that kind of stuff, like achievement reward. You will not run out of ticket to satisfy your gambling addiction. Like, you will get showered with summoning ticket. all the time. So you can hit summon all the time without ever touching your gem need. And if you really want to spend to dip in the gem reserve that you have to start summoning, I would highly suggest at least go to the, I think it's gonna be the value section or somewhere. It's gonna be the weekly pack where you get summon a little bit cheaper, but still I would personally never touch this. I know it is like a controversial opinion when I said that a couple weeks ago that I would never touch this, but people would be like, damn, can you see that it's cheaper to summon from here? But honestly, this is where they will entice you to summon. And then, oops, you're out of gem now, you can't progress. How about you go to the next Crystal Jade shop so you can buy more gem, guys. So that is one way for them to like drain your gem supply very, very quickly. Like it may not feel like a lot, but if every week you're doing this, you're gonna run out of gems very, very quickly. You can't progress in the game and you hit the wall. It's either you quit or you start buying crystals. So it depends on you. Okay, whatever you like. If you really enjoy summoning, then you go and summon. But if you really want to progress in the game, we all agree that whether you are free to play or big spender or medium spender, farming is going to be one of the most important things in the game.
100%.
So for PvP, this game is going to be a very PvP focused game. It has right in front of me 3 different PvP mode, and there's going to be more in the future in the guild section. But from someone who was ranking really high in the Summit Arena, what is your one best PvP tip you have to give to a player starting Etheria Restart?
I'm going to shameless plug here. I have created a playlist for RTA basics. Check that out if you guys haven't, because that will be that I try to set the foundation on how, you know, RTA is like, what kind of play styles there is, the good practices for RTA, all that kind of stuff. I've laid them all out. The best advice I can give you is go watch those videos because I've already created them. But most importantly, RTA is no different than you trying to beat the most absurd AI boss out there, right? Because at the end of the day, you're playing against just a real person instead of playing against an AI. And so one thing that if there's one big tip that I want to give away, is that you're playing against a human. And what humans tend to do is errors. There's going to be human errors. So it's not going to be a 100% this person, if you do A, B is going to happen. So there is a good chance that if you just play a little bit better than your opponent, even 0.5%, you can beat them. And that feeling in itself, compounded, makes you confident enough to always play RTA. And don't forget that RTA gives you the most rewards. So if you really just, don't like playing RTA, just come in every week, farm the coins so that you can get your Apex prototype, you can get your Anima prototype, you can get your Latisis, that kind of stuff. That's also no harm. But ultimately, when you're playing RTA, have fun. All right? If you're not having fun, don't play it. Don't play it. Just accept the fact that you're not going to get all the rewards that come with RTA. That's really it, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true. Like the intricacy, the nuances, the small little details of RTA is really, really hard to explain in like a short sentence or even a short paragraph, because there's so many smaller strategy that people can use, be it cleave, bruiser, tank, control, cleave. There's so many things that you can do in RTA, and that's why I think that's one of the most fun and engaging PvP mode that the game has to offer. And I'm so glad they launched the game with RTA, because there have been a couple games that trying to launch in a turn-based situation and they trying to give PvP, but then they only start with the AI, the traditional PvP. And I think that was like Black Clover Mobile that didn't really do well, even though I think they had a very good foundation. But then there was an RTA early enough to keep the player engaged. But Etheria Restart is launching with RTA, and they actually put a very good shop for RTA to invite people to play RTA and experience real-time combat. Like actually real-time, you're fighting a real person. And to further explain all the strategy, you kind of have to subscribe to Sturby, okay? I'll leave a link down below. A lot of information you can learn about RTA over there, and also watch his stream. I think watching RTA stream is one of the best way to just learn about RTA because you're watching someone either making the best play possible or making the dumbest mistake that you can make. And you can avoid doing that and win in your own matches. And I think personally for me, the best tip I can give for RTA is to accept that you are never going to win a lot. You are going to lose a lot, but it's okay. Like, it's not going to be the end of the world if you lose. And the guy might have outweighed you. The guy might have more dupes. The guy might have drafted better than you. It doesn't really matter. But if you just play enough, you put in the hours, you are definitely going to win like around half the time, and you're going to get your hands on some of the most amazing reward for playing in the game. Because when you compare the RTA shop to the normal arena shop, the normal arena shop just looks garbage compared to the RTA shop. It looks so much better. And I think that is where the game really invites people to play RTA. And more RTA content is gonna come out in the future from me, from Sturby, and from many other content creator in the space. That's gonna give you guys so much more strategy to try it out. Because right now, I think we kind of know what is the meta, right, Sturby? That certain things are really, really strong. But the more people play, the more matches being conducted, the SR potential is gonna start coming out, and you might be surprised certain things are gonna be really, really strong in the future.
Yeah, for sure. Like, I did this. This is a brief, overview of what a typical RTA season looks like, and Sean, you can tell me if this holds through in Summon as well back then or even now. It always starts the early season, with everyone, taking more risk. They start going more aggressive. They start cleaving. They start having more fun at the beginning of the season. Right? They were like, all right, I want to test my max speed. Let's see if I can outdraft him with speed. And then they just start doing all this dumb stuff with, aggro, hybrids into a cleave, that kind of stuff. And then when you start going to the middle season, you start seeing people start playing a bit more standard, right? They start playing more RGBs. They start playing more counter drafting. And then right at the end of the season, when everyone really wants to get that frame, they want to get, the highest rewards possible. They want to get that skin. Everyone starts tanking down. Everyone starts stalling. Is that something that, it's the same with you? Have you experienced that before?
Definitely gonna be similar in the way that at the start of the season, it's all cleave, it's all fast, everyone want to win in the more satisfying way. Because if you go in and you start controlling immediately, it feels great. The enemy's not moving, you start laughing at them, it's good times. But the moment people start to learn how to use their shell properly and how to use things that can help them survive, control, or survive cleave, then cleaving starts to not be fun anymore because they know what they're doing. And they can start counter drafting you in the best way possible. And it's not going to be easy to cleave anymore. But hopefully, this is hopefully, that the RTA meta is going to be healthy, because I want all the different playstyles to be viable. It's not just if you don't tank, if you don't go bruiser, you lose, you never climb. I think that's going to suck. I hope that in the future, different meta will survive and you can kind of just play whatever you want. And if you really know what you're doing, you can still push. I think that's the best scenario possible for RTA. Not just if you want to win, gotta start picking Tiamat or something like that, right?
I was losing a whole bunch to Vipers, Victors, RC77, D-Things. There were people who knew what they were doing because they played the beta 2 to 3 times, and they knew how to utilize these kind of SRs that, us first-time players, and it didn't help that I'm also a whale, didn't look at them at all and cared about them and just disrespected them. And then the match just gets stolen off me. So the strategy there in this game is quite vast because your SR units actually do things here, right? Sanya was the most abused healer out there. Gray is used everywhere in PvE, and he can even be used in aggro team comps, right? You have Marvel, this non-stop, came out of nowhere. Everyone started using him, pushing everyone back, speed down, res down, turn meter push back. It was insane. And these are all SR units. I'm not even talking SSRs. So you don't have to be, an Omega Whale, have all the SSRs to compete. If you know what you're doing, you can go in with a full team of SRs. I want to bet that you can do that and still win.
Yeah, I can feel that. Like the amount of SR that can do a lot of stuff is going to be absolutely incredible. And in different kind of playstyle as well. Bruiser, cleave, control. I think SR can do all of that. It's just that the SSR is going to be better when they are fully invested. So I think the early mid game, the first month of Etheria restart, if you know your SR well, you're going to do really, really well in PvP. And I think one thing that the beta couldn't really push toward was that people kind of stopped playing after like a week or 10 days. To be honest, people stop playing after like 5 days because they get enough of the game. They want to start playing for real in the real global launch. But if we get more time to play and people actually start farming the third boss of this, and they start getting immunity set, they start getting the strive set to get turn meter in between stuff, it's gonna create even more exciting matches in the future. Because if you go in Marvel, you outspeed, you win because they don't have immunity. But in the future, when everyone start having good immunity, everyone start having strive and the shell that push your attack bar in between the stuff, it's gonna be amazing. You have a whole new meta, so it's gonna be very exciting, and I can't wait to see what people are gonna do with the third boss when they got all the shell, all the module available to them. I can't wait to see what they're gonna do in the future.
100%. I do think that there's going to be some kind of degen that's just not going to care about Terramaton, not going to care about Dogi, and he's just going to perma farm Aurora, and he's going to have all his stuff on Strive Bloodbath or Strive Bulwark, and it's going to be, you know, the most annoying thing to go and fight against.
The tank, the real tank's gonna show up.
The real tankers.
You
yeah.
outspeed me? I don't give a shit. Just outspeed me. Whatever, right? I'm gonna cut in between and start like taking you down one by one because I'm so tanky, right? So it's gonna be terrifying for people who really know what they're doing and they actually farm this dungeon. And I feel like this is gonna be like the PvP dungeon. Because when you go in, right, you farm Terramaton, I think the biggest thing you're gonna get from here is gonna be the damage dealing module. And that's going to allow you to farm other things even faster. And now you're doing a lot of damage. But then the moment you start farming this thing, oh, it's going to be so much fun. So that's going to be great. And I can't wait for the global launch in the future. And I think that's all the tips we're going to give you guys today. There's so much more, but there's not enough time. And we need to really play the game to give you guys even better tips in the future. So I want to give a huge shout out to Sturby for showing up today, giving you guys all the tips, spending time with me on this call. And you guys, please go to Sturby channel to subscribe and watch his stream in the future. He's going to be playing RTA 24/7. I can already see that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Every time I log in, I'm just going to, you know, speed run my dailies because all I want to do is just start playing RTA.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next upload.